What is up, my guys? I hope you all have been doing well, and welcome back to the channel. If you are new, hi, my name is Grubs, and I make Eternal Return content geared mostly towards new players. So with my first video, I really just wanted to try to nail down kind of some core concepts of the game, and I think I did okay on that, but there's obviously more that we can build off of. So I wanted to make a follow-up to that, kind of talking a little bit more about things that we can build in the beginning of the game, how vision works, just little mechanics that maybe might be a little confusing at first, especially things like when do you use your weapon skill, what is a weapon mastery, when you go down on the ground, what do we do? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So without further ado, here are even more beginner tips that I hope can help you guys thrive on Lumia Island. So in my last video, I actually had a comment talking about food, and right after that, I had a friend in my Discord hit me up and say, hey, I read that. I'm still a little confused as to the specifics of food, as to when do you eat it, should you be eating it during a fight, is it after a fight you should be worried about it? And I decided that yes, this is definitely something that I struggled with as a new player, remembering to eat food and all that kind of stuff. Yes, potions are a thing in other games, but food works a little bit differently. Some games you get a big boost with potions. This game is not that way. So let me go over just some of the basics of food, and then we can go into when we should eat food. So basic understanding is this. You can eat 2 pieces of food at one time, okay? No more than 2. When you eat a piece of food, over the next 15 seconds, you will regenerate your health based off of whatever the stats are of the food is that you ate. But the key thing to keep in mind is that this effect does not stack, okay? You don't just eat something and then eat something else and you get the health regen of both items on top of each other. The first 15 seconds is going to be based off of whatever it is you ate first, and then you're going to have another 15-second period where the second item is going to activate. There are also different grades of food, okay? So you have your gray, which are usually like your cooking components, which you can still eat, but they're not very good. Then you're gonna have your green, you're gonna have your blue, you're gonna have your purple, and then you're gonna have your gold. And within the same vein of that, you have drinks, which are your SP or your mana regenerators, and they function exactly the same as food. It's just instead of your health, you're focusing on your mana. So when it comes to cooking food at the beginning of the game, it's pretty simple. Basically, you just go to a campfire with the ingredients you have and you cook them. One of the easiest things is you don't even need a campfire for. You have bread and water when you start. You can combine them to make bread and tears, which I believe does mana regeneration as well as your health regeneration. Another option that I think most people do is if you just go to a campfire, you can cook your bread really fast and make toast, and then you don't need the campfire again to make breakfast sandwiches. All you need to do is collect some meat off of wolves or off of boars. Boars conveniently give you 2, which is perfect because you can make 4 breakfast sandwiches with the 2 meat and the 2 pieces of toast. So that is an option. There is a potential to get gold food very early on, and that is completely up to you whether or not you wish to invest the time in it. There is a chance that when you are building, when you first start the game, you may find a frozen pizza in a box. You can take that with you and take it to a campfire. Frozen pizza will make Hawaiian pizza. There's also the potential to get golds from fishing and foraging. When you fish, there's a chance for you to get a salmon, and the salmon will turn into salmon steak. And if you are digging up potatoes, you have a chance to get sweet potatoes. So you have to choose whether or not that is something that is important to you to have those gold food. Some people don't even make food at all in the beginning. What they do is they just get some meat on them, if they even do that, and then they just go kill people at campfires and take their food after they've made them. So that is an option. There also are boxes that drop very early on that are white and orange that have, I believe, blue grade food in them. So you can get food from there if you need it, especially late game when a lot of the campfire zones are out and you can't cook food anymore. It is definitely a option for you to find a box and get food from there. But if you're getting to that point of the game anyways, you're going to be mostly looting the food off of the people you've killed, especially if they have a shukai. That is buffed food, my dudes. Take it. It will keep you warm at night. It will love you right. Take that food. And now we move on to the question, well, when should we be eating it? Do we eat it in battle and outside of battle? And the answer is yes, tentatively. If you are outside of battle, you do not need to eat your food. You need to just sit down for a second and regen your health. It is going to be much faster for you to sit down and regen your health versus you sitting there eating up all your precious resources, right? And here's where the tentative comes in. You may be in a 3-stack where your teammates are moving really fast and you cannot communicate with them, hey, I need to sit down for a second, and you don't want to lose your position with them because, sitting down takes time and you may get out of position. So yeah, you may eat something like a cheapo blue grade item or something like that, right? Don't touch your good stuff if you have to do that. As for eating it during battle, as soon as you take damage, you should be eating it. Like I said, it takes a little bit of time for you to get the full effect of your food. It's over a period of 15 seconds, so definitely just keep eating it. If you take a lot of damage from poke at the beginning of the battle, I highly recommend, if you guys are just dancing around, kind of step out of the fight and eat and let your health regen. You may even be able to get away with a sneaky sit down, but I don't recommend that for every situation because it does take a second for your character to stand back up again after they sit down. But if it really seems like nobody is committing to the fight, you can definitely sit down for a second and try to get as much health back as you can. But just be smart about that, of course. So hopefully that help clears up some of the questions or confusions you may have about food. Now we're going to move on to vision. There are really only 2 things you need to worry about when it comes to vision, and that is the CCTVs in every zone and where you can find cameras. I am going to be going way more in depth about all the things that you can build with cameras in my support guide that I am currently working on. So if you are interested in learning more about cameras, you may want to check that out once I have it done. Maybe subscribe if you want to, if you are keen to hear more about cameras. But I will give you some of the basics right here. So in every zone, you have a CCTV camera, and basically when you activate it for a set period of time, you will have access to vision on certain parts of that zone. After the time runs out, you will have to go and reactivate it again in order for you to refresh the timer and have vision over those areas again. And what's great about the CCTV cameras is that they will change color depending on who has access to them. So red means that the enemy has access to them, green means that you have access to them, and if there's no color at all, that means that nobody has access to the cameras at that time, which makes it so that you understand if they are red to be wary when you are in that area. It does not necessarily mean that they are there, but it does mean that somebody is watching what you are doing. And every time you go to a new area, you should try to grab the CCTV camera. Sometimes you can't, it makes sense, but it's free vision and it only takes a few seconds usually. So go ahead and try to grab that whenever you can. All right, so now we're going to talk about the equivalent of wards in this game, and that would be your surveillance cameras. So you get surveillance cameras from bats, and you can combine them with other things to make them better, although they will work just fine the way that they are. If you combine a surveillance camera with binoculars, you get 2 telephoto cameras. They function pretty much the same way. You also have the option of combining your surveillance camera with gunpowder, which will make a recon drone. Those are really good for scouting ahead. You don't have to be right next to a bush to check it. The recon drone has a little bit bigger of a range for you to hover over an area and kind of see what's going on. Alpha will drop recon drones, and Omega drops a souped up version called the EMP drone, and it functions exactly the same. So there's the quick and dirty on cameras. Obviously, recon drones are better for kind of scouting out ahead. Usually you want to leave surveillance cameras and telephoto lenses behind you in bushes, maybe places that your CCTV camera can't get. Just remember that vision saves lives. It's very easy to go through a zone and not try to keep track of what's happening behind you, and sometimes placing that one camera in that bush while you're walking through is the difference between you getting jumped by people unaware and you guys turning and destroying people. So keep that in mind. All right, moving on to the next thing, which would be your masteries. Okay, your masteries is basically like a passive level that goes up over time depending on what you're doing. There are a lot of different things that your masteries could be. There are different types of masteries, but we're going to talk about how to kind of understand at a glance without going into all of the nitty-gritties of leveling up different masteries and all that kind of stuff. Here is the most basic baby way I can describe mastery to you. And hopefully it doesn't make anybody too mad because I'm really taking out all the technical elements about it, okay? But every time you build something, every time you move to a zone, Every time you kill a person, every time you kill an animal, you are leveling up different masteries. And when you press tab, you can see your character portrait, you can see the items that you've built, and then you'll see a number, and that's right before your like team kills and your deaths and your assists. That number is your mastery level. The more you do stuff, the more it goes up. The higher that number is, the more bonuses your character is applying passively. So the best way for you to keep that up is to farm, build your gear, and to kill other players. So if you are quickly pressing tab to kind of gauge how strong somebody is, look at their gear, but also look at that mastery number, because that mastery number is going to be all of these additional bonuses that are going to be applicable towards their damage and their defense as well. So if you fight somebody and you're like, man, I have more golds than them. I don't understand why I lost. Well, they were probably better than you, and they probably had a higher mastery level as well. So I feel like that is probably the easiest way to explain masteries to a new player. Obviously, there are way more things that go into it, but I feel like if you are somebody new who is trying to know what to look for when you are about to engage a fight, that is something you should look for, and that is something to keep in mind. All right, moving on to the next one would be your weapon skills. Now, this is not a complicated concept. Every character has a specific weapon. Sometimes it's multiple weapons you can pick from, and they give you another ability that you can use. Cameras will blind people. Baseball bats, you can swing them into people and knock them back. If they hit a wall, they get stunned. Every weapon has something different that they can bring to the table to add to your kit. And I did not realize as a new player, they're on a very short cooldown. Some of these characters actually rely on that weapon skill as a part of their kit. Like Estelle, you can cancel out of her shield by using her axe. Adela can use her rapier skill to get in so that she can get that clutch ult off on people. There are many benefits of your weapon skill, and you need to be using them often. If you are confused as to which weapon to pick from, because again, some characters have multiple options, you can go to dak.gg, very similar to op.gg for League players, and they usually have a list of statistics of what people usually bring to the table when picking that character. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it is whatever works for you and your playstyle. I would recommend just keeping an open mind and try a whole bunch of stuff out. There's really not a wrong choice, in my opinion, to what weapon you choose to use. And the last thing I wanted to touch on is when you go down, what should you be doing? Now, this is a very situational kind of query. Like, I can't explain to you in every situation what to do. What I can do is kind of go over what your options are, and you will have to make the determination as to what best fits your situation. Most of the time when you go down on the ground, you either want to use your W skill to try to shimmy away to a safe location for your team to either pick you up or for you to use your R to get up off the ground. If you feel like the enemy team has moved on and you kind of got left behind, you can just immediately press R in hopes that they don't find you. On an opposite spectrum of that, if you are fighting and you hear the little heartbeats in the background, that means somebody's trying to get up, and if you just auto-attack them, that will stop them. They will get a cooldown, I believe, of 10 seconds before they can even attempt to do that again, or any of the other skills that are available when you are on the ground. If it is a do or die moment, you are 2 teams left, you're in the safe zone, you're battling it out, and you go down, sometimes the best thing for you to do is to kind of crawl over to them and blow yourself up in hopes that you do a little damage. That is not usually the right call, but it is very cheeky and it can be very fun to blow up on them, and then your teammate would clean up after you've done that damage to them. But most of the time, you don't want to be doing that. The only time you want to be blowing yourself up is if it is day 1 to night 2 before it's day 3 and somebody kills you and they just leave you on the ground, and your respawn timer is going to be quicker than you trying to get yourself up. Your teammates are not going to come back for you. They've just left you on the ground. Just blow yourself up, get it over with, and get yourself back into the game as quickly as possible. I do believe that one of the benefits of blowing yourself up is that it denies the healing that you get from normally killing people when they're on the ground. I believe that is the case. I have not gone and tested that myself, but from a few clips that I've been watching, I kind of noticed that that was a thing. You may want to test that out in game just to see, but that may be the only benefit. And you have to think, like, that's 200 credits that your teammates have to spend when you may or may not help the fight, because it's such a gamble. So I don't know if I would even recommend it for that benefit. 9 times out of 10, you don't want to blow yourself up unless it is before you have to buy to get people back in. So there you go. That's what you should do when you're down on the ground. So yeah, that is part 2 of my beginner's tips. Hopefully it helps out you new players. I know I dumbed down a lot of the more complex mechanics of the game, but I really want to stress this. I am trying to make content for brand new players. If you are looking for me to explain things at a high elo standpoint, that is not what this is supposed to be. This is really just for people that are trying to get their foot in the door on learning the basics of Eternal Return. Sometimes I think we forget how much things need to be broken down and how many things we need to accept is not going to be perfect when we are a new player. You're not going to be min-maxing everything. Maybe you learned some bad habits along the way. That's okay. You can fix those in the long run. It's not a race to get to Diamond or Titan, you know? And well, you're probably not going to get Titan, but you know what I mean. It's not a race. It's about the journey to get there. And the game is fun, so just have fun with it, guys. And if you are looking for something that is more min-max, efficient type of learning, there are so many wonderful high elo content creators that are doing that already. I am just here to provide super baby stuff so that hopefully we can get more people just in our player base in general. Anyways, I am off my soapbox, I promise. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please consider giving it a thumbs up. If you liked my guide so far and you've liked what you've seen and you want to see more, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I definitely have more videos that I'm cooking up for you guys, and I am super excited to share them with you. Yeah, that's it. Bye!